Hello, welcome to the Age of Sigmar Stat Center, which is normally every Monday, unless I've been traveling, which I have this weekend. I was in the Netherlands, which is where the Dutch live, who speak Dutch, and we were covering the Alliance Open Team Championships, which was teams of 4. There were 18 teams and 72 players, and the winner was French Kiss, and you can watch all of those games on the T Sports Network Twitch account, and in a few weeks you'll be able to watch them on the T Sports Network YouTube page. So the show that I'm doing now is being filmed on a Tuesday with a Twitch chat, but normally I do it on a Monday. There we go. So if you are listening to this as a podcast, or you are watching this back on YouTube, please do like and subscribe. And as always, thank you to everyone on the Honest Wargamer Patreon. Couldn't actually live or survive without you. So let's go. Right. Okay, let's jump straight into it. I've got loads also for people who maybe are interested in my thoughts on the Alliance Open Team Championship. I'm going to be doing a separate video about the players and about a bunch of things that I think I learned about competitive gaming, and also just about how well some of these people have done. Okay, right, so before we go into anything else, I'm going to start a new thing that I'm going to start at the beginning of each week for the Stat Center, which is where we look at the current results. So the TSN rankings is where we take all of the 5-0 events from around the world, so any that happened, and then we put this information into our rankings, and there's a guide on this page, and I'll include it in the show notes, but if you go to the Honest Wargamer, it's the TSN player rankings, and here you can see all of the Age of Sigmar event results, and you can see how players have done. So just to shout out kind of the top 5 at the moment. So the top 5 in the world, so the best performing players in the world right now is Tom Guan, my co-host for Summer Slaughter, lovely fella, with 6 GTs already in the bag. He's got 1 5 win, and then 3 4 ones. So yeah, he's up there with 616 points. Alexander Gonzalez has been to 4 events, and he's got 3 4-1s at the moment. Jeremy Vissier, who I think maybe still has some event results to put in, but as you can see, 3 events, 3 5-0s. He is currently undefeated, Jeremy, which is pretty incredible. So he's looking for that like golden performance over the course of the year. So he's got 3 more events because we take your best 6 event results. So you can play in 20 events, but we take your best 6. Adam Mumford, my good friend, shout out, has got 1 5-0 and then 1 4-1. And then Carl Ong, B's up, C's down from the Seasonal War, or the Tough Crowd, no one knows at this stage, has got 1 5-0 and then 2 4-1. So those are our world top 5. Just shout out the top 3 in the different regions. In the UK, Adam Mumford, Michael Wilding, and Kieran Alinda. In continental Europe, we've got Robert Rupert Rajowski, Nico Hoek, and Tobias Schwartz. I've definitely got all of those wrong, but I apologize. In North America, it's Tom Guan, Alexander Gonzalez, and Jeremy Vissier. In the Philippines, it's Dennis David, Miguel Alger, and Carlo Augusto. And then in Scandinavia, it's Benjamin Fluda, Theo Papakristodula, and then Lassie Kalberg. And then UK and Ireland, as discussed, I've already told you. So there you go. So that's pretty good. It's pretty good. Well done to everyone. And you can also see who's the top player of any faction. The best performing faction at the moment is 3 different factions, actually. But if we pick... let's pick who. Slaves to Darkness is a hotly contested one. Currently, it's Toby Meadows from England, and then Max Saul from England as well, who's also a little treasure. So you can go check those all out on the stats. Really easy. Right, let's jump into our first event, shall we? And our first event is going to be the Raccoon Rumble. That's right, the Raccoon Rumble. And this is our largest event, as you can see, 120 players in Germany, 6 rounds, and the biggest European event since AOS Worlds. So a really big event, and it's really exciting to see because at one point I think a lot of German events were one-dayers, and now they've really stepped it up. There's a really big community in Germany, so really excited to talk about the event results question. Okay, so our winning list. So it was a 6-round event. That's important to talk about here. So it was run by Colin Claren. I'm probably saying that wrong, so I apologise. And thankfully he's in the chat right now, which is really exciting. So shout out to Colin, and did it with Maggotkin of Nurgle. He did it, though, with the Filthbringers Rock Coven Sorcerer list, which we featured on the show previously, and we've talked about. I think it already did well in Germany. It might have been Colin who was running it in Germany previously. We've also seen it perform well in the US. And it's a bit of a meme list, but it's also not a meme list, which is pretty incredible, which is really, really fun. Yeah. So the Rock Coven Rockbringer Sorcerer is I think it's a 1-cast wizard. let me just double check. Yeah, it's a 1-cast wizard, but importantly, has got the Tainted Endless spell. So if this unit summons an Endless spell for the purpose of disease battle trait, the Endless spell is treated as a unit with a Maggotkin of Nurgle keyword. Also, you take 3 Rock Coven Rotbringer sorcerers. So as you can see, there are 3 here in the list, and they get pluses to cast when they're near each other. Right, so when they get near each other, which is really important when you're trying to cast like high-end spells. The really exciting element of this is he's taken 3 endless spells, Umbral Spell Portal, so he can cast I think Rancid Visitations or Gift of Disease, either one which starts applying disease points at range. And then we'll cast these 3 endless spells, which are Spell Portal, Ravanax Gnashing Jaws, and the Shards of Valagar. Shards of Valagar sets up within 18 inches, and there's 2 parts of it, and one of them you keep moving every hero phase within 12 inches. There's 2 pieces to it, and you move 12 inches at the end of every hero phase. What's really cool about that is it's a massive base. It's great for being able to block up screens and stuff, and it halves movement. But also it means it applies disease points to your opponent from very early. Same with Ravanax Gnashing Jaws, which moves 3d6 inches after setup, so it's really, really fast. And same with the Umbral Spell Portal, which is set up at 18 inches. So you've got the ability to just drop these disease-creating endless spells into your opponent. And disease points every 4 up at the end of the Battle Shock phase. Every time you got a disease point on you on a 4 up, you take a mortal wound. So it's just a really great way of applying tons and tons and tons of disease points from very early. So I guess, and has done obviously very, very well. Then in addition, and then he's taken it all in a Warlord, Expert Conquerors, and Bounty Hunters. So we'll talk about what those units in there are. So in the Expert Conquerors, there are 10 Putrid Blight Kings. So they're going to count as 30 on an objective, and they've got 40 wounds each, 41 wounds. And then you've got 5 Putrid Blight Kings, which are going to count as 15 on an objective. And then you've got, but they're 20 wounds. Yeah, that makes sense. Then there's also 10 Blade Bearers, which is another 20 wounds. So he has a lot of wounds on the board, all of which have like a good armor save in the Blight Kings and also a 5-up ward because it's Nurgle. Then he's got 2 units of 2 Puskull Blight Lords to kind of move forward and attack the enemy. And those are also really fantastic as well. And those are in Bounty Hunters. So he's really making like excellent use of the new War Scroll battalion, not War Scroll, sorry, battalions. They're not War Scroll battalions. Core battalions, thank you. The core battalions, Expert Conquerors and Bounty Hunters, as well as the other one, Warlord, which is really different as well, because normally the things that we see used are, of course, 1-drop battalions in the Battle Regiment. So Expert Conquerors in some really tanky units, and then Bounty Hunters in some really fighty units. So it's kind of like the perfect culmination of stuff. 142 wounds, 9 drops, doesn't get the choice to go first, and then there's 3 wizards at the back of the board. Right. So CoFresh in the chat is hopefully going to write us a rundown on the honest-wargamer.com where you can create, if you go to honest-wargamer.com, you can create list rundowns on here. So here you can see the workbook which I wrote on how to improve your games of Age of Sigmar or just how to get better at playing. The lists here, you can create list rundowns or even unit rundowns that you like. The 40k listing isn't actually open. And you can also find the stats at the back here, so really good. A special shout out to Colin. This is fantastic work. Should be super happy with himself, winning the biggest event in Europe since Worlds. Congratulations to him and congratulations to everyone else. Okay, so looking at the 5-1s, and congratulations to all these players going 5-1. You've got Tristan Faffelmholz with the Fangs of Sotek Seraphon list, Skinks, Slan, all the elements you expect to see normally. Stefan Kinzel with his Eineth Deepkin list. He was taking a Purple Sun, some Reaver's Thralls, and also the aspect of the sea for that teleport, drop a Purple Sun, reduce the rem by 1, do a bunch of shot with the Reavers as well. Love that Deepkin list. And going 5-1's really good. They're not quite 4-1, 5-1 material. I don't think as an army. I think like 4-1's really their like kind of ceiling, so he did really well to push him up there. Lucas Rakzek was running Marathi and the Bow Snakes. Daniel Pommer was running Nurgle, but this was with the Lord of Afflictions and Puskull Blight Lords in Drowned Men. Andreas Holter was running Stormcast Eternals with Stormdrake Guard in Bounty Hunters. as well as a Nitroconus. Tobias Schwartz was running a Summoning Disciples of Tzeentch list with the Incarnate and the Double Bird. I'm actually so excited about the Double Bird list that we've seen by people like Caleb and Tobias and a bunch of other people that have been pushing around, that I actually have 3D printed myself another Lord of Change, as I've always been like a pure Kairos fanboy, but like Double Bird looks like it's super fun. Timo Knapp was running Kharadron Overlords. He had a ironclad, an ironclad, 2 gun haulers, 10 thunderers, as well as an admiral, some arcanauts. No endless spell though, which I thought was actually quite interesting in his list. So it wasn't the same as some of like the Zilfin drop down, dropper Purple Sun lists. So well done to Timo, especially with KO. Jonas Schulte with Daughters of Cain was running Marathian the Bow Snakes, as well as some Heart Renders and Shadow Stonkers. So congrats to you. Dan Tip was running Fire Slayers. Actually, I didn't read the Fire Slayer list. So what is in the Fire Slayer list? Was it all Magmadroths? Auric Runefather and Magmadroth, Rune Master and Battlesmith, then 20 Volkite Berserkers, Runeson and Magmadroth, Runeson and Magmadroth, and a Molten Infernoth. Nice, that's actually quite a good endless invocation, as they say. So the Magmadroths are really fighting. If you kill them, you take mortal wounds in return. And then the 20 Volkite Berserkers are just a really good meat shield, especially with the Rune Master and Battlesmith buffing them at the back of the board. So, yeah, a really good combat mid-board army there from Dan Tip. So congratulations. Matthias Brinkert was running Nighthaunt, and he was running Bladegeist Revenants, double Horrorghast Cruciator, so that reduce the Rem by 1 down to a minimum of 1, but you can take it from damage 3 to Rem 1. So well done to him. And then Jan Tomek was running Beast of Chaos with a Shaggoth, 20 Zangor, 6 Enlightened, 6 Skyfires, and a bunch of other units. So yeah, I lost to Timo round 5. Hey Prop Joe, loads of love in the chat. So it looks like a really fantastic event. I saw a load of pictures that you can go follow online. If you just type in the Raccoon Rumble, you will obviously be able to go and find all the pictures. Twitter's a really good place for finding those. This list, the link to these lists, as well as all the other lists I'm going to feature in the show, will be in the show notes on the podcast and also on the YouTube video if you want to go check them out, so you can go and click all the links and talk about them. So a huge congratulations to everyone here. Looked like a really fun event. So the next event that we have is Blackout, run by Chris Tomlin from a previous podcast called The Black Sun, which I don't think he records anymore. Chris, a lovely fella. Thank you very much, Phil. But as you can see, he isn't currently using any of the pairing software that we normally use, and the chat are being pretty angry with me and saying, we've sent you the links, you can find the information, but truthfully, if you don't use a pairing app, I'm just not even really going to bother going through it. That's on me. So there we go. But I will go through first place. It was a 90-player event as well, so there's loads of really great information here. So like you might want to click the links or like follow him on Twitter to find out the info. I'll include the note below to his Twitter account so you can do that. But in first place was Phil's first 5-0. Congratulations, and he was running Seraphon. He just messaged me in the chat saying he summoned 110 Saurus on day 2, which is a pretty amazing stuff. And we do have his list, and it is a Seraphon Thunder Lizard list with Lord Croak. Lord Croak's a 4-cast wizard. He gets +1 to cast if he's near a Saurus Astaroth Mana Bearer, which is in the list. He gets an additional +1 to cast and 6 inches to all of his spell ranges. On his War Scroll, he's got the ability to cast Comet's Call, which is D3 or D6 units take D3 mortal wounds. He's also got something called, it's not called the Deliverance of Itza, but it used to be called that, and that's what I always call it, so I don't care what it is called now, which is an AoE mortal wound spell, which do affects up to D3 or 3 units if they're demons, 3 units always, and it's D3 mortal wounds or 3 mortal wounds. If it's demons, it's cast on 7, 8, and 9. He also then can use the Constellation to get an additional +1 to cast, so it's actually +3 to cast, which is pretty fun. And then if he takes Chronomantic Cogs in the list, which is only 40 points, he can get +3 and re-rolls all casts. It's not even re-roll failed casts, it's re-roll casts. So if you roll, let's say Phil rolls a 2, or not a 2, because that would be it rolls a 3, so a 2 and a 1. With his +3, that would make that would obviously be a 6. But he's like, fuck that, I'm going to roll again. Rolls a 7, now it's a 10. So he's super happy about that. Right, so Celestial Deliverance, that's what it's now called. It used to be called Deliverance of Itza, which was the name, but Celestial Deliverance is what it's called now. And then he's then got an Engine of the Gods, which is 265 points. Oh, yes, and thank you. +4 with the Astralism. Thank you very much. Which comes from... I don't know where that comes from, actually. I actually never know where that comes from when I bring it up. But he's got an Engine of the Gods, which is 265 points, which in Thunder Lizard is -1 damage, because any of the Saurus units are -1 damage. And it's also an incredibly good fighting unit, especially if it's the general, because then it's got the command trait Prime War Beast, which gives it extra attacks, and the mount trait Beastmaster, which gives it extra attacks. And so it goes from being one of the killiest units in the game. It's also a priest, and in this situation, it's also a wizard for 265 points. So it's incredibly. Imagine Durthu is a wizard, moves really fast, and then is also a priest, and then has got an ability, the actual engine. So that's all of that before we get to the engine. And when you take the engine, you're able to roll 3d6 or 4d6 if you're near a slan, right? Overcosted, I agree. It should be way cheaper, maybe 180. You roll 4d6, and then you consult a table, and that can be AoE mortal wounds, or it can be AoE heals into your army, which is really good, or you can summon Saurus warriors. Now, what's really exciting, and if you roll an 18, or you get double attacks on everything, but what's really exciting, because you're playing Thunder Lizard, is you can actually make that happen twice. That's right, you can just keep summoning stuff, right? Or you can just keep doing mortal wounds. It's wicked, right? So it's a priest, a wizard, an incredible combat monster, a summoning engine for 265 points. Yeah, it's just beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Really, really good. And then he has also got... Oh, that's it. He also has got Curse, which is a spell that you can cast within 9 inches. Not a spell, sorry. A prayer that you do within 9 inches or 4 up. Any 6s to hit the unit that you cursed do mortal wounds, which is really great. Then he's got 5 Saurus Guard, 10 skinks, 10 skinks, and 20 skinks. And then a Bastiladon with Solar Engine, which has got a 18-inch, 24-inch, 18-inch range, I think, maybe 23 inches because it moves 5. But basically, it's a long-range shooting platform, which is 4s and 3s, Rend 1 damage 2, or something like that. I can't remember. I care at this point. And then 2 Bastiladons with Arcosotech, which have got snakes. So they've all the Bastiladons have got 1-up armor saves. They're super defensive. They're super tanky. And so you charge them in. And then the snake versions, the Arcosotechs, they roll 18 dice if they're not wounded, and only 6s to hit cause a mortal wound. So you should statistically do 3 mortal wounds, and from 2 of them do 6 mortal wounds, which is actually really, really good. So yeah, really good. And then Chronomantic Cogs for reroll cast, and then my favourite endless spell now, Friendship ended with Purple Sun. Now Friendship, now Horrorghast is my best friend, okay? Which is just easily one of the best endless spells. It's super cheap to cast. You set it up within 12, 18, can't remember, really far. And then it moves 12, 18, can't remember, really far. And then it affects units within 12 inches, within, FAQ'd to being within, 12 inches. Any units within, not wholly within 12 inches, do not have to, cannot use an Inspiring Presence, which is just beautiful. And if any units run away in the hero phase, then it's D3 extra more run away. I don't know how Phil's experiences were with the Horrorghast over the weekend, but it's comfortably my favourite endless spell at the minute. And me and a couple of my friends, shout out to the Rain of Stars gang, are going to try and use that and manipulate that in a list to cause some havoc. Phil seemed really happy and finding this game super fun. I'm glad. Well, Phil's a babe. It's the dumbest... he also then said in the chat, it's the dumbest army I have ever played. I made a Bone Splitter's army run away turn 1. How good it... I told you, Phil. I've been beating the drum of Horrorghast literally since the book dropped, right? As soon as that came out, I was like, this is crazy good. And there are a couple of other Horrorghast-like spells in the game. You've got Horrorghast. You've also got the birds. I can't remember what they're called from Beasts of Chaos. Ravenwing Direflock. That's their name. And also the the Death Reek. Oh my god. The Death Something Shrieker. Yeah. Sent you pictures of turn 1. Oh my god. Do we get a live bat report? I love this. Yes, Phil. Sent me a photo. Hold on, let me look at this. Okay, so here's a live battle report. This is fantastic. Anyone, by the way, that's going to tournaments that's going to feature on the Stats Center, start doing this. I love this. Love you, Phil. Thank you. So this is turn 1. against Bone Splitters. So there you can see he's got his. This is great, Phil. Thank you. He's got his Engine of the Gods right there in the center, the Skink screen, and then he's got his Bastillodon with the solar engine there, so he can stand and shoot, and then the 2 Bastillodons with the arcs, and then he's got Croak, and then he's got everyone in the temple. So that's his turn 1, and then just take a moment. I just don't want to give away Phil's private information, and then there you can see. There's no Bone Splitters left, and he hasn't left the castle. Like there's literally there's no units left on the board, and his army's in the same place. Oh no, he did lose. He did lose an engine. No, he lost a Bastillodon. He lost an Archosotek in the bottom right-hand corner. Right. I won priority and gave it to him, and he conceded. Wait, he didn't move. How did he do it? Okay, amazing stuff. No, that's the end of my turn 1. Sorry, that's the end of his turn 1. And there you can see the Horrorghast in the middle, causing a mischief. Amazing stuff. But I only want battle reports like this all the time now. Like, send me pictures. When you play your games, send me pictures. If you're like, oh, I won my event, send me the pictures of the games. Seems like a great way to spend a Saturday morning. Horrorghast is so good. Horrorghast, by the way, will win you games into Sylvaneth. It will win you games into Nighthorn. It will win you games into Beasts of Chaos. Like, don't say amazing. It's amazing, right? I like it when it, like, don't forget, I'm through, for everyone who's watching this being like, that doesn't seem really fun. Like, it's dumb and it's broken. Don't forget, I do this full time, all the time. I have gone through the looking glass. I'm on the other side of the needle. I have gone through purgatory, that is balance and everything else. I am now at the other side, where all interactions are insane and hilarious. Let's join me. Join me in the plateau of the happy, because it's great, right? That dude's first game was a huge nightmare. I'm sorry, but I have to say goodbye, work calls. Thanks for mentioning my list, Rob. CoFresh, loads of love. Congratulations to you for winning such a massive event, and what a great list to do it with. Congratulations. I really want it to be my Soulblight Gravelords. Horrorghast looks super cool. There's a really good list. Okay, so hold on. Okay, just looking at the rest of the event. In second place, we had Christian Robertson. In third place, Matt Roberts. So Christian was using Soulblight Gravelords. Christian, unfortunately, wasn't able to finish any of his games. I personally would have red carded him. I don't think if you finish any of your games, or you never get to turn 4 in any games, then you should be allowed to have a win effectively. But that's not meant with anything aggressive. It's meant with love. I think chess clocks should be something that tournaments use on the top table, and being conscious of how long you spend playing your rounds is something that's really beneficial to you and your opponent. So I don't mean that as a call out, I mean that as a helpful reminder to the community that we should all be conscious of making sure we should be responsible for each other. We should help each other finish our games and our rounds, okay? Matt Roberts with Seraphon. A special shout out to Matt, who's been able to make it into the Six Nations team for Wales this year, so looking forward to see how he does there. Big shout out to Greg with his Soulblight Gravelords Castelli list. Andy Hughes with his Nighthaunt list. And then Marco De Anna with his Maggotkin and Nurgle. Matt Goldsborough with Lumineth, who I know went 4-1 and he was using Kangaroos, which is great. God does truly give his greatest challenges to his strongest Kangaroos. And Chris Myhill with Seraphon. Laurie with Sylvaneth. I don't really know when the 4-1 stopped because, again, it wasn't on an app or something. So, and I'm not doing all the work for someone else. So yeah, congratulations to everyone at the event. I hope they had a lovely time. And on to the next event. On that, we also had 30 players playing in Battle for Beast Hall in Ireland. We actually had 536 players playing this week in 8 countries. It's an incredibly busy time for Age of Sigmar. The busiest week that we've had, really showcasing that, again, like I said, Age of Sigmar is popping off. It's on the rise. It's huge. However, they didn't open up they didn't open up the winners, so we don't know who won. But that happened in Ireland. So that was the Battle for Beast Hall. Next up, we're going over to Scotland. So, Broken Realms and Minis War, which is an event over in Scotland in Glasgow City. Glasgow. So shout out to everyone over in Scotland. It was set up by Matt, and it had I've just lost my notes. It had 50 players, which is a pretty big event for Scotland, which is great. Really great guys. So we had 2 5-0s from this event. We had John B and we had JJ Cropley. Let's go. One of my club mates who was in Nottingham and now has moved up to Scotland. Love JJ. And John's fantastic as well. So let's look at John's list first. So John was running Beast of Chaos. He had a Dragon Ogre Shaggoth and a Great Bray Shaman. And then 9 Dragon Ogres, which is 45 wounds on a 4-up save. 6 Dragon Ogres, 3 Dragon Ogres, 6 Zangor Enlightened on discs, and then 2 lots of 10 Ungor, and then 1 unit of 10 Gore, and then a Kronspine Incarnate of Gur in a Battle Regiment, Bounty Hunters, and he's got the Endless Spell Ravening Direflock. And there's some really, really fun tech with that. Now, our Bounty Hunter units were our 9 Dragon Ogres, 6 Dragon Ogres, and our Zangor Enlightened on Discs of Tzeentch, which does mean that they'll get +1 damage against Galician Veterans, which are battle line units that have 5 or less wounds and aren't mounted. So they're really good. Those 9 Dragon Ogres are going to have lots of attacks, but kind of the key point for those 9 Dragon Ogres is they are 45 wounds, and they're on really large bases, so they can cover a lot of the board. And when you kill them, they're able to rally on a 4+, which is a command ability you can do at the start of the hero phase. You can do it in each player's hero phase. So if you just think about like what a unit might look like, imagine you kill the front half of it, which definitely will mean that they're not in combat anymore because you can't do it within 3 inches. So you can't do rally within 3 inches. So then even if they get a double turn, in the next turn, let's say you've lost 4, you should statistically get 2 back into that unit, so 10 wounds. If you kill them down all the way to 1, to a minimum of like to just 1 of the 9 unit left, so you've killed 40 wounds out of the 45 wounds, then as long as they're not in combat within 3 inches, they can then rally, and they should statistically put 4 bases back, therefore 20 wounds back into the unit. So it's a really effective unit, especially with how cheap it is, because that 45 wound unit is only 375 points. And they're pretty good in a fight as well. 6 Dragon Ogres, 250 points, and then 3 Dragon Ogres. The 6 Zangor Enlightened on discs are incredibly fast, especially because there's a Great Bray Shaman on the list, which means they're going to go 19 inches. And then they're going to get to fight. If they go second, they get rerolls to hit and rerolls to wound on their very prodigious fighting attack on the discs and on the blades. So they're really quite scary. And then you've got Ungors just for holding objectives and just running around and being Galician veterans. And then Kronspine Incarnate of Gur, which you should know what this does at this stage, but effectively it's kind of an unkillable. You can't kill it immediately. You have to kill it over 2 battle rounds, or 2 turns, sorry. But units also can't run away from it as well, so it's mega effective for just pinning the army in, and it's a good fighting unit and works really well in this. Also, don't forget, Beast of Chaos have got they're a ramp army, so they summon really well. They've got loads of summoning points, and one of the ways that they do that is they do Primordial Call, so they effectively can take D3 mortal wounds, and then they get D3 points back. Now, there's some really fun little tech that you can do here. Now, he hasn't noted on his list who the Kronspine Incarnate is, who is bonded to the Kronspine Incarnate. And if it's a Great Bray Shaman, then you can do some really fun stuff, specifically where you can use the Primordial Call, which is where you take D3 mortal wounds, to effectively slay himself, so the Great Bray Shaman can slay himself. This would mean that the Kronspine Incarnate becomes wild, which means he automatically always gets +1 to hit, gets run and charge, but also there's some really fun additional tech that you get to do with this, where you can then charge your Ravening Direflock, which I'll talk about in a moment, and it's only cast on a 5, so using the monstrous action to eat an endless spell can go up from level 2 to level 3, which effectively adds 18 wounds onto the unit, which is really good, and you can control where that Ravening Direflock goes all the time. So he's got the ability to slay himself, therefore make his Incarnate stronger, which is actually quite good. He might not have done that. Normally you see the Dragon Ogre Shaggoth kind of does the Primordial Call, so takes D3 mortal wounds and then heals it at the end of the combat phase, I think, maybe, as well as using heroic actions and other stuff to do heal. That's what you normally see. The Dragon Ogre Shaggoth is in the list as well. It's a monster, and it can use the raw, but not raw, some sort of one of the monstrous actions that only it gets to do to summon more, get more Primordial Call points, which is the summoning points that they use. The trick here, though, in this list, and the really clever bit that I really like that John's done, so a special shout out to John, I don't think I've seen this being used anywhere else, is John's been using Ravening Direflock, which is a endless spell that you can only use for Beasts of Chaos. So it's only 30 points, and it's only cast on a 5, you set up within 12 inches, but the really clever bit is how it moves. the way it moves is if a unit finishes within 1 inch of this endless spell, then in that phase, whoever's turn it is picks it up and puts it somewhere else. Okay, so if I, as the Beast of Chaos player, cast it and then I move near it, I'll pick it up and I'll put it wherever I like, which is great for an incarnate because he can charge the endless spell if it's wild, so he can charge it and then he can use the monstrous action to eat it, which means only on a 6 it's going to get 18 wounds, which is pretty great, to be honest. But also what it does in game is really powerful, which is models cannot issue the Inspiring Presence or Rally command while they're within 12 inches of it. So no Inspiring Presence and also no Rally, which is super, super powerful, and it doesn't affect Beasts of Chaos. Now, we just talked about how Phil was using Horrorghast, and Horrorghast is a great spell. Here's a version of Horrorghast which also stops Rally, but it doesn't affect your own army, which Horrorghast does. So it's really, really clever, and it's really nice. So it's really fun seeing what John's been able to do there, where he's mixed all those different overlapping abilities to make his army much stronger. And also there's some tricksy stuff in there that you don't really know what's going. You're like, oh, okay, there's a spell. Okay, it's there. Okay, he's charged it. Well, he's a level 3 incarnate. Like, you're not really interacting with any of those elements. So he's buffing his army without you really engaging, and then he's debuffing your army. So quite like that. I think that's quite clever. There's a lot happening in that list. Now, JJ, who also went 5-0 as well, was running Stormcast Eternals, Hammers of Sigmar, and he was using a Lord Relictor. Then he was using 4 Knight Vexillers with the Meteoric Standard, which is, once per battle, you pick a point on the battlefield within 24 inches, and every unit within, I'm going to say 6 inches, every unit within 6 inches of that point suffers D3 mortal wounds. So on turn 1, JJ's making you take 4d3 mortal wounds to everything within 6 inches. Then he's using a Knight Heralder, and then he's picking a terrain feature within 18 inches in the shooting phase. And don't forget, if he decides to put this unit up into the sky, so in reserve, he can drop it down within 18 inches, wholly within 18 inches of a piece of terrain. And then every unit within 3 inches of that, on a 2+, takes D3 mortal wounds. And he's also got a teleport if he needs to do something with that as well. Then he's got 5 Judicators with bolts on crossbows, 2 lots of 2 Judicators with skybolt bows, so that's even more shooting into all those units, and then 3 Annihilators which you can drop down from the sky, do mortal wounds, and then also charge in. A Crunchspine Incarnate of Gur, and then the Purple Sun in a double battle regiment. And then Thunderbolt Volley, so essentially 4 Judicators unit shooting turn 1, and that's because JJ is in the chat. I love all the 5-0s. So far, every 5-0 has been in the chat, so thank you, everyone, for joining us. That's fun. Oh, not John. John isn't in the chat. So double battle regiment in this list as well. So it was a bit of a meme list, which we saw do really well. I can't remember where, like a few months ago. And JJ's obviously seen that and run with it, and I think that's fantastic. Added his own little spice to it because he's added the Knight Heralder. Loads of really interesting interactions in there. Well, not quite. It's a bit monosyllabic because it's just loads of just AoE mortal wounds, but it's really, really good. Like, that's a legit, the bunker buster lists are what we're going to call them now. We've seen the same thing with the Slan, Comet, the Celestin Prime, Stardrake versions of that as well, all doing bunker buster mortal wounds in AoE, which work really well into Nighthaunt castles, Sylvaneth castles. So you've got a very interesting new army type that's been played over the past few months, which is worth talking about. So I love the bunker buster list. So love that. So congratulations to both those two players. Okay, so the rest of our 4-1s from the Broken Realms and Minis for War 2 in Scotland was Nathan Watson with a Blades of Khorne list. Nathan doing some really clever stuff in his list. He's got a Khorne Reapers of Vengeance army, which means he can strike twice with the unit, which obviously he's going to try and do with Scarbrand, which is really powerful, especially when he uses the Bloodthirster of Infected Fury to make him pile in 6 inches, activate pile in within 6 inches, if there's a unit within 3 inches, and then just yeet stuff into the sea. If he's got a Blood Secretor nearby, he's going to get 2 attacks and his big damage. We saw at the Alliance Open Team Championship stream this weekend, we saw Scarbrand kill 2 Mega Gargants in 1 combat phase. 2. 1,000 points. So when you stack all of those attacks, he can go crazy. Really good. Now, the Bloodthirster of Infected Fury has also got the command trait Mage Eater, but he's also got the Arcane Tome and Flaming Weapon. So I think damage 3 or damage 4 on his weapon. But the key part there is the Arcane Tome, because the Arcane Tome means that he's going to be able to cast Horrorghast in his list, and we'll talk about that in a moment. He's also got 2 units of 10 Blood Reavers, 5 Flesh Hounds, and then he's got 2 Slaves of Darkness, Chaos Spawn, and a Kronspine Incarnate of Gur. So Kronspine does everything that I said that it did previously. Now the Horrorghast affects you in the Battle Shock phase. The way it affects you is, if I just talk about it, units within 12 inches of this endless spell cannot receive commands in the Battle Shock phase. So Nathan was playing this as each Khorne unit is affected, and like by this, which means with the Hatred of Sorcery ability, each time a friendly Khorne unit is affected by a spell or the abilities of an endless spell, you must roll a dice on a 6, you ignore the effect of the spell, and you receive 1 Blood Tithe point. So that's 10 units initially that can roll basically turn 1 if he casts it, then it means he's just going to roll 10 dice in the Battle Shock phase, and any 6s are going to pop him Blood Tithe point, which is used for summoning and all those other shenanigans. So really good. Also useful to put a Mystic Shield on, let's say, Scarbrand, or any of those other units, or the Kronspine Incarnate, which makes it very, very strong. So don't hate that as well. And then from that point on, it's just pretty much like every Khorne list is at the minute, which are doing really well, which is control the board state so that you push Scarbrand into someone with double activation and double pile in, and then just delete literally huge units with Scarbrand. So that's pretty much how the army works. He's also got the Bloodthirster of Incensed Rage, which has got like a Boom Thirster ability. That's what it's called. It's AoE mortal wounds if it does proc the big damage, which also works really nicely with Horrorghast. So if you can hit multiple units, then potentially taking multiple Battle Shock tests, which means potentially you can do that. So yeah, and as JJ said in the chat, also because you can save up Blood Tithe points, and if you do use Blood Tithe points, you can also save them after you spend them, which is a new thing. That's why you're seeing these Khorne lists do a little bit better. Then we had Adam Turner, who's running Sons of Behemoth, which was running 3 bigs and a Kronspine Incarnate, which is a great list at the moment. Donald McCree was running Hosts of Slaanesh. Hosts of Slaanesh. Now, was that Kyle? Kyle was running that. And he was running a Pretender's Host list with Glottos, Sigvald, Bladebringer, Lord of Pain, 5 Host Riders, 2x11 Blitzbarb Archers, some Slickblade Seekers, and a Battle Rage and Command Entourage. Honestly, I'm not 100% certain about this list, to be honest. It's got a lot of moving parts. Glottos is a really powerful wizard debuff unit and also a fighting unit in of itself. Sigvald's a great fighting unit. Contorted Epitome is a great fighting unit, as well as all of that. You are going to, as well as all of the spell casting, that you also get from it. And then 2x11 Blitzbarb Archers is 40 shots at range with Rend 1. And then the Slickblade Seekers are kind of your fighting unit. So you've got some big fighting from your big characters, specifically Sigvald and Glottos. They're good, like duelist units, and then you've got some ranged attack from those units as well. But other than that, there's not really much interaction with the Slaanesh army to itself. It could just summon, I guess. And so there you go. But congratulations, really good job. DJ was running Nighthaunt army with a bunch of Bladegeist Revenants, Spirit Hosts, Krulghast Cruciators, and then Lee Martin was running a list we've seen doing kind of well recently, or versions of this, which is our Drychi Ganeth, Hag Queen on Cauldron of Blood, High Gladtrix, Bloodrat Medusa, Witch Elves, Heartrenders, and then some Allied Blackheart Corsairs. Sorry, no, we haven't seen this. 3 lots of 10 Blackheart Corsairs, and then 2 Avatars of Cain with the Heart of Fury, which reduces the damage by 1 on Daughters of Cain units in range. Actually, not 100% certain about the Blackheart Corsairs in the list. Don't really know what they're doing in there, but absolutely excellent. The High Gladiatrix is making it so the Witch Elves can be hitting on 2s and wound on 2s with, I think, 60 attacks each, which is pretty phenomenal. So I think that maybe the Blackheart Corsairs, which are only 85 points, are screens, so that they die and then the Witch Elves can counterpunch, basically, which is really fun. A lot of innovation coming out of these Scottish lists. Love to see it. And so, yeah, congratulations to everyone over there. Okay, so next up we're going to Game Night AOS that's right, in Canada. Okay, so Patrick Allen, doing really, really, really well. Going 4 wins and a draw with his Sons of Behemoth list, which was 4 bigs. 2 Gatebreakers, 2 War Stompers. In case you need me to explain, Mega Gargants count as 20 models on objectives. They stand on them, they fight on them, and then you either beat them or don't beat them. That's how it works. And they throw rocks at you. Shout out to Patrick, that's fantastic. Michael Nomura was running a Fangs of Sotek Seraphon list with some Slans, some Skink Priests, and loads of Skinks. Nonomura, sorry, I'm trying to say that better, or Nonomura. Try to say that better, but good work to you. Ruben Parker was running a Deepkin list. It's quite a fun list. I quite like this. He had an Achillean King, which is a Slap King, obviously. 2 Soul Renders, which meant he could deep strike with his unit of 30 Nomati Reavers, which is 60 shots, and then his 30 Nomati Thralls. What I also like about that is it also means he can keep them off the board, which means they can't be alphaed, which is quite nice, actually. And then 3 lots... 2 lots of Ishling Guard as defensive heals, and then a unit of Morsar Guard. So he's got some like small MSU units to push around, and then he has got, and that's it, all in a battle reg. No deep strike. Oh, it's healing. Sorry. Okay, well then change my mind. The Soul Renders do the healing. They don't do the deep striking. Apologies. Soul Renders do the healing. All right. So then he can return 3 D3 D6 into the Reavers and Thralls. Okay. All right, I prefer the deep striking, actually. Now I've looked at it. But he's obviously done really well with it. So congratulations to him. 2d3. And then our Sinesh list did really well, which was Ruben was running his Ideth Deepkin. Mitch, Quaja was running his Host of Sinesh, Lurid Haze, Invaders Host list, which was Sigvald, the Contorted Epitome, and a Shard Speaker of Sinesh, of all things. Then he had 2 units of 10 Blitzbarb Archers and a unit of 30 Blitzbarb Archers. So I think that means he's got 100 shots coming out of his Blitzbarb Archers, and then 2 units of 5 Simbramesh Twin Souls, and a Mindstealer's Phalanx to make you strike last. So yeah, loads of fun little Sinesh tech in there for doing some summoning. So congratulations to everyone at the Game Night AOS event. So, next to Texas, Hammerfest in the US of A, Hammerfest 2022. 88 players, so a massive event. Thank you to Dadbod, Napgod. So top of the pile this week was Germany with 120, but then UK had 90, the Netherlands had 74, and then the USA had 88. So yeah, loads of results. And we got Zach, Matt, and or 2 Matts. Zach Kennedy, Matt Beasley, and Matt Robbish all on 5-0, with Zach in first place, Matt in second, and then Matt Robbish in third. 2 Sylvaneth 5-0s, which is actually huge news with only our previous... This is our first big Sylvaneth win at a big Age of Sigmar event. We have had a single Sylvaneth 5-0 previously, but these are at like a large event, so it really takes the Americans to showcase how to do this. And then Matt Beasley with Legion of the First Prince is also a huge vibe as well, because also we haven't seen Legion of the First Prince doing particularly well. They don't have their own book battle tactics, so they don't have a grand strategy or a book battle tactics, which if we had the data available for, you would show that they are achieved more regularly, more easily, and more successfully. So book battle tactics and grand strategies are much easier to achieve than the core ones. I personally don't think that they should be in competitive Age of Sigmar, because it really, like, you can't, it's too much information load, but that's a kind of side note. That's not me releasing information out there in the wild. But a massive congratulations to Matt, so because that's a particularly impressive performance, because they haven't been doing super well. Looking at the list, there's some really interesting tech. The first one for us, first Sylvaneth 5-0, is Harvest Boon in the Dwindling. Now, he's got a Warsong Revenant who's a 2-cast wizard, very much like a Lord of Change, but is 100 points cheaper. And has got Spell Singer, which means he can cast spells through forests, which is really good. And Arcane Tome, making him a 3-cast wizard, right? And he's bonded to the Incarnate, and so there's an Incarnate of Gur in this list, which is going to be yeeting itself its opponents all the time. Now, he's also got this Skaith's Wild Hunt, which is one of the Warcry warbands. No, not that. Underworlds, that game no one plays, apart from the Swedish, I think. Skaith's Wild Hunt, and that means he's got two wizards in the list, which means he can take 2 endless spells. Geminids and Spite Swarm Hive. Spite Swarm Hive is the +3 to charge, or +3 to charge spell that pops off on a 2-up. And then Geminids is any unit that's hit by it or ends up within an inch of it on a 2+ suffers a mortal wound. If you take that mortal wound, then you can't issue or receive command abilities. Now, it's set within 8 and it moves 8 inches, so it's not actually that powerful kind of early. in Age of Sigmar, so I think that's why you don't see it as much. However, because you can cast it through a tree, I think what's super clever about this list is you cast it through the tree, which extends your range pretty massively, and that means that you can run it through your opponent's army. So in their first turn, they can't issue loads of command abilities, can't receive loads of command abilities, all out attack, all out defense, like inspiring presence. There's like some really interesting elements to it, which I really like. I think it's really, really clever. Like very, very clever inclusion in the list. 2 lots of 5 Tree Revenants, 2 lots of 6 Spite Rider Lancers. Now this is in the sub-faction Harvest Boon, which means both units get a pre-game move of 12 inches or their full movement or whatever it is, 16 inches. But so they're going to be going like either 24 or 36 or a billion inches. They're going to get close enough to charge you basically on the first turn. They're both also in Bounty Hunter battalion, so if they're charging into they're charging into some Gallivets, they're going to be damaged too. But Skate's Wild Hunt has got a spell which can give them +1 to wound, which is pretty nice. Well, 1 unit +1 to wound, which means that they're going to be even more effective when they do charge in. And don't forget, with Fight and Fade, or Fight and Fire Away, or Fight and Run Away, or whatever it's called, you activate with the unit, then you immediately retreat. I have to explain that a lot of the time because people don't really get it. So they hit you and they immediately retreat before you even get to activate back into them. They also rally on a 5-up, so pretty amazing. We saw Ryan Agus from the weekend go down to 1 Spite Rider Lancer and then rally 4 back into the unit on 5-ups, which they're 5 wounds apiece, so that's 20 wounds rally back. So some really interesting and fun tech there. Really well thought out. I think that's excellent work, so congratulations. The other Sylvaneth list I'm going to call the Yeet and Skeet, which is Alariel the Everqueen, the Arch Revenant, with the Warsinger trait, meaning you get a +3 inches to your move, 6 Kurnoth Hunters with scythes, and then 2 lots of 3 Kurnoth Hunters with bows, because they're in the sub-faction Heartwood, and that Heartwood makes those units battle line, and then Spite Swarm Hive, which obviously gives you a +3 to charge, as I talked about. Now, the Yeet and Skeet is quite interesting, because Alariel obviously can move, hit you, and then use Fight and Fade to run away, but you can only use that on 1 unit. So, the reason I call it the Yeet and Skeet is probably Alariel gets yeeted up the board, does a load of damage, with the bows having shot through the enemy lines to clear some chaff, teleport the Kurnoth Hunters, charge them in, so then you've only got a 6-inch rollable charge, so then they run away, and then Alariel probably stays in the fight with like a Mystic Shield, an all-out defense, finest hour, which means you can have up to a +3 to a save, and then in the next turn can yeet away. You can then skeet in I'm getting confused with my analogies here. You can skeet in the Kurnoth Hunters, and you can just keep bopping around. Tree Revenants, there's no Tree Revenants, and that's it. That's the list. So kind of interesting. I kind of like that list as well. And then Unleash the First Prince list isn't super different to ones we've seen previously. Kairos, Bloodthirst, Incensant Rage, Safe Sedan and Steam Prince with the Mark of Khorne, Contorted Epitome, Fleshhounds, Bloodletters, and Fleshhounds. And then the Kronspine Incarnate of Gur doing loads of damage. I have to say, I saw the Safe Sedan and Demon Prince play a lot this weekend in the team format. Probably one of the strongest units in Age of Sigmar right now, and has been since launch. That 18-inch aura of Bloodstick Ground plus a redeploy can make you fail battle tactics, can just shut down whole units. Absolutely fantastic. If you've got the ability to ally that into your army or have it in your army, unreal. Unreal stuff. So incredibly powerful. I don't really know what to say about it other than it's amazing. So congratulations to Matt, and Zach. Excellent work. Okay, look at the 4-1s. We had a lot, so I'm not going to go into them much in detail, which is a bit of a shame. But you can include all of the links below, so you can obviously check it out. So Kelpig was running Nighthaunt. He's running the Quicksilver Dead. Now my good friend Lex was running this weekend also in the Netherlands, where the Dutch live. And this was a bunch of Harridans, which is quite interesting because you can't take ward saves against Harridans when they become battle line. And then when you charge your Nighthaunt, you've got the potential to reduce the armor save of the opposing unit in front of you, and you can stack it. So it just takes incredibly survivable units like Phoenix Guard or Nurgle, Puskul, Blightlords, for example, and you could be right, -2 to your save and no ward saves. And they've got 4 attacks each, and when they charge, they're 3s and 3s. And then you can also have, and when you charge, you're also -1 to be wounded. I actually really like it. Really like it. I get the Blade Geist Revenants. I get what you get from that, where you do the mortal wounds in addition to all the fighting. But I really like it. I think that's really fun, so shout out to Kel. Emma was running a Magikin of Nurgle list, and this was using the Rotmire Creed units, I'm pretty certain, which is quite interesting. There's some real stuff to deep dive on that, which I'm going to do on a different show because there's so much going on there. But Emma, one of Team USA, has been very innovative in how she's used a lot of different units over the recently, so definitely we should check that out in more detail, or if Emma wants to write a list review on honest-wargamer.com, I would love that. That would be great. Ryan, with his Magikin of Nurgle, was running Pushkal Blightlords, I think, and a lot of Afflictions. Shout out to you. Juwan Noah Singh was doing some wicked stuff with his Beast of Chaos list. Specifically, the one bit I really liked was he took the... Oh, that's the bit. He took the Khorne Demon Prince with the... Well, the Demon Prince of the Bark of Khorne. I think that's an auto-include in Beast of Chaos. I'm surprised I haven't seen it in every Beast of Chaos list. It's an auto-include in any list you can take it in, I'm going to say. Incredible utility, and you should see that more in lists. Michael Wynn running Daughters of Cain. I think that was Marathi and the Bow Snakes. Matt Taylor was running a fun OCR Bone Reapers list where he was running Arcan, the Death-Tide Shrieker, and then he was running 3x5 Kavalos Death Riders, and then 3x5 3x3 Necropolis Stalkers, which is quite interesting because he's going to definitely be screening out with those Death Riders, and then Necropolis Stalkers doing some amazing work. Also in Petrifex Elite, you're ignoring a Pip of Rend, which is quite nice in that army as well, so it's fairly tanky, but then he could do a load of damage with all those different units, and then the Blood Tide, the Blood Tide Shrieker, you can't use Inspiring Presence, so we've seen that a lot. Big War, we had a bunch of, it's basically an Iron Jaws list with some shooting in it, basically from Marco Hernandez, and also a Wurgol Prophet. But he effectively, imagine Iron Jaws, who are really scary, running across the board with some pigs, and then you've got some Ard boys at the back of the board in Unmatched Conquerors holding the backboard, and then you've also got some Bolt boys from the Cruel boys doing mortal wounds at range, which is just stressing you out, and then a Wurgol Prophet just runs over and stares you to death. It's the worst thing in the world. Like, amazing work, Marco. Great work. Jeremy, again, flipping the script. Only going 4-1, so Jeremy's first loss in the Galette Battle Pack. Whoever managed to take him out should be super proud. But Jeremy previously was running KO with the Purple Sun. He's now running KO with the Horrorghast. And I can't tell you how much I loathe this list. Loathe it because it's beautiful. Loathe because it's beautiful, it's horrific, and it's amazing. Like, you drop your army down, you put the Horrorghast in their army, you then shoot all the units that you want to shoot, and then they don't inspire in presence, and then you just run away. And then D3 more run away. It's beautiful. Beautiful and horrible. James West with Cruel Boys, fantastic work. No one's done this well with Cruel Boys. He had 2 units of 20 Gut Rippers, all in big yellers, so he still had some Bolt Boys in his list as well. Then he also had a Sludge Raker in his list, so really incredible work. The Gut Rippers were in Unmatched Conquerors, so they were holding those objectives. So those units of 20 were counting as 60 on an objective, and they're 2 wounds each. Really impressive, actually, because honestly, looking at it on paper, I really don't know how it does so well. So James should be super happy with himself, and incredible, stellar performance. And if you look at his path to victory, he only actually lost his very last game, which means like he was doing very, very well right until the final match, so he should be super happy. Joseph Carnite was running Stormcast Eternals, and I think I read this list. I think it was... Oh, there was 4 dragons, 4 fulminators, but he'd allied in a battle mage, so he gave himself +2 to charge, which was really nice. I love that, especially on those fulminators, so they can just go that little bit further in the charge phase, or those 4 dragons, which are also really good as well. So 2 big hammer units with a bunch of utility in his army. Ryan Rutherford was running 3 Gatebreakers and 2 Littles, which is nice. I prefer 3 Gatebreakers to the Incarnate, but great work. Alan Michael Torres was running Blades of Khorne, Reapers of Vengeance. This was 2 big blocks of 9 Blood Crushers, which do D3 mortal wounds per 1 on the charge on the 2-up. So it would have been 9 D3 mortal wounds from those 2 charging models. amazing stuff. I don't know what to tell you. Like amazing stuff, really fun. And then Elijah Ramos was running Thunder Lizard. He had some Stegodons and he had some Crokensland and some other stuff. And that's it. Like really big event down in Texas. Loads of events happen down there. If you're ever over there or nearby there, you should check out the Weird Knobs Twitch channel and also Weird Knobs like website. So it's spelt how 40k is spelt. So Weird Knobs with a K and a Z. And go check out everyone from there. So congratulations to that. To them. Yeah. Okay, so in Norway, we had the Invasion AOS 2022. And actually, I think Norway's biggest event to date, probably organised by the 2D6 group, maybe. But shout out to everyone over there. So I got a load of love for the Norwegians. And we had 2 5-0s. So we had Tom Kenneth Soley and Benjamin Fludder with his Skaven Tide. Tom was running Fangs of Sotek list with loads of skinks and a Slan and Ashloth Bannerbearer and some skink priests and all that other stuff and some Bastiladons. Loads of love. You're fantastic. I've just read this list a bunch. So loads of love to you. Benjamin Fludder was running a Skaven Tide list. And it's quite interesting. He's got the Verminlord Warbringer. I really like this because Verminlord Warbringer has got a stackable fight on death ability. So it's a spell, that you cast, but you can make a unit fight on death D3 times because you have the FAQ for the aspect of the sea for Annette Deepkin, where you can minus a save D3 times and it's stackable. That also applies to this. So you've got fight on death D3 times, which is actually really interesting. On the Warbringer itself, which is incredibly fighty with flaming weapons, or on the Verminlord Deceiver, which obviously can teleport itself in and do the same thing. So you can put fight on death on the Deceiver, teleport it in 3 times. How does that interact with the unit only being able to fight twice per phase? It overrides it. I'm almost certain. It overrides it. But if someone wants to rules check me, I'm pretty certain. Or you can fight on death twice. But I'm pretty certain it overrides it. But don't take my word for it. Super worth asking your TO how you feel about it. But then we got the Warlock Bombardier, a Greyseer, and then 6 Storm Fiends, and then 2 lots of 20 Clan Rats with a Warp Grinder. So they're able to... it was FAQ'd in the tournament to max 2 times. Thank you, Tom Sembu. So there you go. So TOs are going to have to FAQ it, basically. So it's max 2 times. But that does mean you can send in the Deceiver. He can fight, and then you can kill him, and then he's got fight on death. Right? So there you go. Which I think is interesting. And you got 6 Storm Fiends, which obviously with +1 to hit, +1 to wound from more war power, are going to do a ton of damage. Each rattling cannon is 3d6 shots, and there's 2, so 6d6 shots. And then if you use a Warpstone token, they're going to be damaged 2. The Wind Launchers have got 24-inch range as well, and they're like damaged 3 or something. They're wicked. And Clan Rats are just your screens. And then Chronomantic Cogs for your reroll casts on your Warbringer and your Deceiver and your Bombardier. So just a really cool list. Really nice to see Skaven do well. Really, really fun. Very, very cast dependent on it being very, very strong. So there you go. And then, and yeah, that's it. That's our 5-0s. That's our 5-0s from this event. And then we've got a bunch of 4-1s, which we're going to talk about now. Okay, in our 4-1 bracket, we've got Sindra. Oh, no. Jolvang. I tried. I want you to know that. With a Soulblight Gravelords Castelli Dynasty list, 2 units of 5 Blood Knights, some Grave Guard, some Death Rattle, Vampire Lord and Zombie Dragon, and then also Vordry and Manfred. So 3 big fighty vampires on dragons with some Blood Knights, which are really good for kind of screening. I know 200 points feels like a lot for a screen, but when there are 3 up armor save and then they can retreat, and then you've got things like Manfred bopping around the board, and then the output of Vordry and the Zombie Dragon, you're in a really interesting place in the Castelli Dynasty. I think that's a really, really fun list. I really like that, especially when he's made the Blood Knights Bounty Hunters, so they're definitely dealing with screens and chaff. That's their job, so they're not the hammer units, even though they are pretty good in of themselves. Then you got Ula Vatland with his Ironjaw's Bloodtooth, load of pigs, and Mega Boss and War Crusher. Christopher Malberg was actually running something really interesting. He had 2 units of 20 Bestigor, a Shaggoth, Shaman, Zangor Shaman, Great Bray Shaman, another Great Bray Shaman, and then he's got the Crunchbite Incarnate, a Cygor, and then he's got the Chronomantic Cogs, which is kind of interesting with the Ravening Direflock. So the Incarnate's going to be able to eat the Ravening Direflock go up to level 3 because the wizards are going to primordial call themselves. The Bestigor I just don't know about, to be honest, apart from they're in Bounty Hunters, which makes them super. And then I don't know if there's a Cygor meta incoming, but there's a Cygor as well. I don't know what the Cygor's there for. I don't know. So if Christopher wants to tell me, I would love that. Lassie Kalberg was running Daughters of Cain, which was Marathi and the Bell Snakes. Lars Helgen was running Warsong Revenant, 6 Hunters as battle line, so with scythes, a allied in Battle Mage of Gur for the +2 to charge, with the Spite Swarm Hive for the +3 to charge, giving them +5, I think, or something, to charge. And then 6 Spite Rider Lancers as well, so he could charge in and then also retreat and charge as well. And they're super fast. And that's everything from the list. Yeah, really fun. Oh, we also had the Vengeful Skull route in the Sylvaneth list, which I really like. I don't necessarily think it's better than the Purple Sun, obviously, but when the Purple Sun gets FAQ'd, Skull route, and then the Warsong Bomb through the trees, I just love it. That's what I'm going to say. I just think it's really fun. Hello. In Quebec, they had the Montreal GT. I was recently in Montreal. Bonjour, my friends. Bonjour. And then they had 48 players. Pretty big event. 46 players at the Montreal GT. Bonjour. And in first and second place, or un, deux, is Danik Gagne and Christian Real in Quebec. And then Danik was running Fangs of Sotek Seraphon with a load of skinks, some camo skinks, Purple Sun, the Horrorghast again, and and all the stuff that you normally see. And then the guy in second place, whose name is Christian, was running Festus, Lord of Afflictions, Lord of Blights, Pusco Blight Lords, and 10 Putrid Blight Kings, and then a Pusco Blight Lord. So congratulations to him and everyone. Well, we've got an exciting set of lists in the 4-1 bracket. Vincent Pierre Martineau was running Scarlet Doom Nighthaunt, which was a bunch of Bladegeist Revenants. Oh, no, sorry, not Bladegeist Revenants. That's not what I mean. Yeah, Bladegeist Revenants. That's their name. Yes, nailed it. So congratulations to him. Alex Thibaudi actually had a really interesting Stormcast Eternals list, in that he had, oh no, I'll put it over here for myself, 1 second, in that, I'm not showing on the screen, but he had a Lord Relictor, a Lord Aquila, but then he has 6 Vanguard Paladors, all in Bounty Hunters, and then 2 units of 2 Vanguard Hunters in Expert Conquerors, 3 Aether Wings, and 6 Vanguard Raptors with long strike crossbows. So he had the entire lot. It's pronounced Thibodeau. Okay, so this is an incredibly interesting list. Those Paladors are really fun. Vanguard Hunters, you don't see them much at all. There's a lot of shooting actually coming out of the Paladors, more than you would think, which is why I think the Vanguard Raptors are backing that up at the back of the board. It makes that really, really interesting as well. So a super cool list that I really want to deep dive a little bit more later, because actually there's some really fun tech in there and it's very unique to see that. Shout out to Freddie Leggett from England, who has been putting Paladors really on the map over the past couple of months. Julian Saz is running Fangs of Sotek, load of skinks in Seraphon. Luke Goslin was running Karajan Overlords with a Purple Sun, a boat, 10 Thunderers, 2 little boats, and then 3x10 little dwarfs. Frederick Prolux was running an Iron Suns list, which is a little bit different to what we normally see, which is charge in your opponent's charge phase, or the end of your opponent's charge phase, with a Mega Boss, 2 War Chanters, and then a Mega Boss on foot. First Mega Boss obviously was on a Maw Crusher, and then a bunch of Ard Boys, 10 Brutes, and then some Gore Grunters. But he also took more Gore Crushers, which no one really does, which is cute. And then you had Mark Andre Fectu with an Emerald Host Nighthaunt list, which is a little bit different as well to what we've seen normally. 2 lots of 4 Mimron Banshees, the Purple Sun, but then he had Spirit Torment, Krulgas Cruciator for the -1 damage aura, Guiding Souls, and Lady Alinda, and then 9 Spirit Hosts, 5 Hex Wraiths, and 10 Groupgas Reapers. So a nice variety of units that you don't normally see. So really fun. And shout out to everyone in Quebec. 50 people, it's a massive tournament. I was in Montreal recently. And lovely, lovely city. And I hope you keep having really big Age of Sigmar events and having a nice time. In Canada again, at the Northern Waste GT, we had nearly 50 players playing to take the title. And it was Nick Fortin with a very, very anarchic Skaven list that ended up winning the event. So looking at the list, you can see that he took, oh no, that's the wrong list, sorry. He took the 3 Grey Seers, but 1 on a Screaming Bell. So that meant that he got 3 Master Clan characters, which means he can, if he rolls a high charge on his first charge, all of the other units can use that as well. He can pile in 3 inches with everything after the first unit. His first run roll can apply to all of his units, which is kind of interesting. He's also got Skit Leap in his army, his Master of Magic on the Grey Seer as well, with Skaven Brew, which is do D3 mortal wounds and have +1 to the attack profile of a unit in range. Pretty certainly will have done that to his 2 units of, well, done it to his unit of Plague Monks, or a unit of Plague Monks, which is 2 units of 20 Plague Monks. He's got 2 Rattling Guns, which are going to be 2d6 attacks, and then potentially are going to be damage 2 because he's going to use a Warpstone token, a Warp Fire Thrower as well, 2 lots of 20 Clan Rats, a Plague Priest, a Warlock Bombardier, and then a Death Master with the Gnaw Bomb, so he can create a bit of like a gnaw hole basically. So then I think what he's done is he's teleported a unit of Plague Monks with the buffs on them, run them forward, and then charged in, and then does some crazy damage all the while shooting with his Rattling Guns, basically. Did I say Grey Seer on Abhorrent Ghoul King? Sorry, Grey Seer on Screaming Bell, obviously. Apologies, chat, and apologies, people watching. We are now 3.5 hours into this recording to get this done. And then he's also got the Purple Sun, drop something down the sun, and Vermintide. We did hear that he had a cracking round for his first 4 rounds, and then round 5 he played against Flesh Eater Courts, and they had 2 Ghoul Kings on Terrorgeist, and on the first turn he put both of them into the Purple Sun, and then the Flesh Eater Courts player shook hands and went home. So amazing stuff. So shout out to Nick. Congratulations to you. And that's a 5-0 on the board for Skaven. So in the 4-1 bracket, we had Dayton Uber. And Dayton Uber has his own podcast called Party at the All Points. The main guy that runs that's a guy called Mr. Budtastic Guy, but Dayton's one of the co-hosts. Lovely fella. He was running Marathian the Bow Snakes in his list. Eric Armstrong also went 4-1. He was running Sylvaneth. He had a Heartwood army with an Archrev, a Spirit of Dirthu, a Warsong Revenant, and they had 6 Kurnoth Hunters with Great Bows, 2 lots of 5 Tree Revs, and a Spite Swarm Hive, and then 6 Spite Rider Lancers as well. So everything I've said about the Sylvaneth up until this is the same there. But congratulations to Eric, well done. I love the Spirit of Dirthu inclusion. And then Riker Gilbert on 4-1 with Lofnir and Fireslayers. One of the few times we've seen Fireslayers up here with a Battlesmith, a Flamekeeper, a Rune Father, a Rune Master, a Rune Smiter, and then 2 Auric Rune Sons on Magmadroth, and 10 Hearthguard Berserkers. Oh, twice. 2 lots of 10 Hearthguard Berserkers. Wow, you can fit a lot into this list. So they obviously can strike when you charge them, which is really good because those Hearthguard Berserkers are really powerful. The 2 Auric Rune Sons on Magmadroth are the same. It's just a real fighty combat army with some real good buff piece behind it at the back of the board. So congratulations to everyone in Canada. Hope you're well. And congratulations, yeah. Our last event, and by no means our least event, is the Sovereign Smash over in Australia. Had 18 players playing. It was won by Nathan Thompson with a Kharadron Overlords Barrack Zilfin list with the Purple Sun, 2 Ironclads, a Grunstruck Gun Hauler, and then 3x10 Arcanaut Company and a unit of 20 Arcanaut Company, which you don't see very much, which is quite fun, which means he does get 2 Light Skyhooks in his army as well, so some pretty decent shooting. And then an Aether Chemist, an Admiral, and an Arcanaut Admiral. So some nice, easy shooting there. Pretty fun. I like this. And then just those big Ironclads just gunning stuff down. And the Purple Sun's so useful in this army because Zilfin obviously pre-game moves, drops the Purple Sun in the army, and then all of your guns have an additional pip of rend. So you're able to just blow through stuff, which is really great. Our Kieran Coates with his Skaventide list in second place had... I must not have opened it. Oh, no, he didn't submit his list. So, I'm sorry, I don't know what it is. And then Joel, with his Stormcast Eternals list, to wrap us up for the day, has got a very interesting list. Karazai the Scarred, Lord Relictor, a Lord Exorcist who had the Master of Magic and Mirror Shield, then a Lord Castellan with the Arcane Tome and Celestial Blades, which is +1 to wound, 4 Fulminators in his list, 5 Liberators, 5 Sequitors, 3 Praetors, and a Dias Arcanum. It's a very interesting list. He can make one of his wizards move faster, which I assume is going to be his Lord Exorcist, where you can't return models within 9 inches, which is a nice little bit of tech. He's got Relocate on the Relictor, which is really cool, so that he can relocate those Dracothian Guard Fulminators, which are going to be very potent in the combat phase. Karazai, big fighty model as well. So yeah, just very interesting Stormcast list. And that is all of the events. Okay. Let's wrap this up. How do we feel? Okay, so I made a separate video saying that there was lots of incarnates, and the incarnate's fairly boring, and like it would be cool to get rid of it. But that's a separate video which will go out at a separate time. Huge list diversity as always, although the incarnate makes it less list diverse, which is kind of interesting, because it's some list with an incarnate, and I do wonder if the game would be less balanced, more balanced. I don't know. But either way, that's pretty key. The big takeaway from this week is, ladies and gentlemen, everyone has discovered the Bravery Bomb. I've been talking about it for ages. I've been running it myself at tournaments. The Bravery Bomb is here to stay. Is it KO with a Horrorghast? Is it Seraphon with a Horrorghast? Is it Beasts of Chaos finally using their Ravening Direflock? Is it Oceart Bone Reapers using the Bone Tie, Blood Tie Shriek, or whatever it is? There's a lot of Horrorghasts out there in the world now, which is actually pretty spicy. Because it kind of makes a couple of different things change around, right? Units that are immune to Battle Shock kind of get stronger, which is really interesting. Abilities that help you with your Battle Shock tests are stronger as well, but then again, bravery debuffs come into more effect as well. So actually some pretty interesting stuff. I feel like Horrorghast makes the stronger army stronger and not the weaker army stronger. Kind of interesting. It's basically an auto win into Beast of Chaos, or it should be. It should really deal with a lot of Bone Splitter lists as well. Yeah, very interesting kind of inclusion in a bunch of lists, and that's my big takeaway from this week. Other than what I said last week, Age of Sigmar is just popping off. Events all around the world in massive numbers. Biggest event we had in Norway. Germany's biggest singles event, I'm pretty certain. Absolutely massive numbers. Events in Australia, 2 events in Canada, which is cool. Massive event again in Texas. So just big events all around the world. Age of Sigmar is just going from strength to strength. The community is growing. The player base is growing. The skill sets are growing as well. We've got huge list diversity. There's still some really exciting lists this weekend. We've had that big German event, obviously won by our weird rock-covered Nurgle list. We've had Palador lists doing weird and wonderful things. You've got Harridans in Nighthaunt doing some interesting stuff. You've got Skeets and Yeets for Seraphon, not Seraphon, for Sylvaneth. All the Seraphon lists are the same. It's interesting. There's lots of stuff. We've had Cruel Boys lists do well. We've had all sorts of stuff. So, yeah, no Gits at all. No Ogres either. So that's a bit sad. But, yeah, the game is very wild. There's loads of stuff out there. And sure, when you read through all of these different things all the time, then it does seem very similar towards the top end, like the list archetypes or the cookie cutter lists. But I don't think that's a bad thing, and I think these players still have to play them. Anyway, a special shout out to the Twitch chat who've gone through this 3.5-hour recording with me to go through all of these different events. So I hope everyone has enjoyed it, because it's pretty arduous to go through. So if you do enjoy what I do, I would love you to like and subscribe. I'd love you to join the Patreon, and that's a great way of saying thanks. As always, I'm going to thank Rob and Ziggy from the Stat Center to be able to help me bring a lot of this information to you at home. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for tuning in. See you soon.